Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Luís, I come from Portugal and I react to pop music, I talk about pop culture as well, so if you're interested, go ahead and subscribe, put a thumbs up on this video and share it with your friends. Today I am talking about some albums that I've listened throughout February, so sit back, relax and have a snack because we're going to have a blast. As you can see, this will be a new segment of this channel. It will be called Blasts of the Month, and I will always talk about some albums that I've listened in the previous months. So usually I listen to a lot of music, mainly pop, rock and alternative, and this way I can talk about all of the stuff that I've been listening to. So today we have 9 albums, 2 deluxe editions and 2 special mentions, which are EPs. As I will mention my favorite tracks from each album or each project, I will then leave in the description down below the links of Spotify and Apple Music so you can listen to them. So without further ado, let's start. So this is actually the second studio album from Hayley Williams, and much like the previous effort, Petals for Armor, she is writing about womanhood, heartbreak, depression, as well as memories from childhood, teenage years. She explained in an Instagram post that this album is kind of a prequel to Petals for Armor, and she wrote and played all the music in this album. This is actually inspired by folklore. She's been listening to a lot of Taylor Swift, she's getting inspired a lot by her, and she wanted to write her own version of folklore. This time around the songs are way much shorter, which I enjoy because in the last album, Petals for Armor, I think she took so long to finish a verse, and some songs she took so much time to get the point across that this time around I feel like she's more direct. She's going straight to the point as the song starts. I think she kind of drags the verses on her last album and they become too long, and on this one the verses are much shorter and the chorus kicks in the right time. In addition, I really like the way she wrote this album. It has a lot of metaphors or analogies, if you may, with medical stuff. I really think that Hayley is an excellent songwriter. I am a songwriter myself, or an amateur if you may, and I get inspired by her every fucking time. So there's a contradiction here because I wasn't very much impressed with Petals for Armor when I first listened to it, but then it grew on me. But with this album I was very impressed on the first listen, but then I forgot about it the next day. However, when I listen back to it, I remember all the songs, so it's weird. Sometimes this happens to me. An album doesn't stick right away in my head, but when I listen to it again, I remember all of the songs and all of the melodies and everything. I really love this project because it's very slow, it's very folk style, it's very emotional, and I really like those kinds of projects. I like when it tells a story from beginning to end and it sticks to the concept. I really like that, and I'm a sucker for emotional, slow ballad type albums. The vocals shine through, the lyrics also come through. It's a very beautiful moment and experience. In conclusion, I still prefer Paramore over Hayley as a solo artist. However, I respect her a lot, especially her work craft, so if she wants to keep up the solo stuff, I will also support it, but I'm excited for the next Paramore album, I have to say.
Это без имени продакшн.
The second album that I will be talking about is Madison's Internet Killed the Rockstar. This is a new discover for me. I discovered him because he has a new collaboration with Avril Lavigne, and I've been listening to Avril Lavigne ever since I was young, ever since Complicated, so I have a long history with Avril. So of course I checked this collaboration and I really liked it, and I was excited to hear his project. It's the first album and the only album that I've listened from him, and I was very impressed. The themes are relationships, especially with Tanya Mongeau, Bella Thorne, and his new relationship with Avril Lavigne. He also sings about mental health, his father's death, alcohol addiction, and fame. I really like his voice and I like his lyrics. I like that it's not too serious but not too silly as well, and it's actually a journey. He's going through a lot of pain and he finds the hope and the fun of life again. The aesthetic and sound is really on point with his image. I really like his vibe. I like his hair, his tattoos, his clothing style. I think the aesthetic and the sound matches very well. It has some similarities to Machine Gun Kelly. They are actually friends. He actually co-directed Machine's new movie Downfall's High, but I think I prefer Mod Sun over Machine Gun Kelly, even though I like both. I think he just needs to stop wasting his time with toxic people, because clearly his relationship with Tana Mongeau didn't work out that well, because as you can listen in the first two tracks, Karma and Bones, he really talks about their relationship and she didn't give that much of a fuck about him. So dating Avril Lavigne was the best that this man could do, because they brought us bobs like Flames or Annoying. In conclusion, this is not the album of the year, so it's not the best project that I've listened so far, but it's a good listen. There's a lot of fun songs and it's perfect for the people who dig the pop punk style. And speaking of Miss Avril Lavigne, the next album that I will be talking about is Who Am I by Pale Waves. So I've discovered Pale Waves through Spotify. I've listened to their song One More Time. It came on Shuffle, I think, and I really like their style. Their vibe is very similar to the band 1975, and they are actually from the same label, Dirty Hit. I've listened to their first album and I really liked it, so I was very excited to their second studio album. The themes are love, mental health, sexuality, coming of age. It's very influenced by Avril Lavigne. If you listen to it and if you are a big Avril Lavigne fan, you will notice a lot of similarities, and this will sound like Avril Lavigne back in the day. And you can clearly tell that the target for this album is young people, LGBTQ plus community, outcasts, you know, like people who are rejected by society or by the popular kids. Even though the songs are very catchy, the lyrics sometimes are a bit cringe. The lead singer doesn't have that huge voice. I think she needs to practice a little bit more. They also need to find their own identity, because, like I said, their first album is very influenced by 1975, and now this album is very influenced by Avril Lavigne. So for example, Rina Sawayama and Biaba Dubi, they're also from Dirty Hit, and when you listen to their songs, it's very different from 1975. This band needs to really find their own identity and their own mark in this industry. But overall, this album is very nostalgic, very enjoyable, and my emo ass is still happy. Speaking of bands and groups, this next album that I will be talking about is Pentatonix's new one, The Lucky Ones, and the themes are very about relationships, self-love, happiness, hopeful lyrics, and I have to say, finally they've released a new original album, because I was getting tired of so many covers and so many Christmas stuff. With Pentatonix there's a huge problem that they usually flop hard with original music, but then they succeed with covers and Christmas stuff. I feel like they want to release more original music, but they are restricted to the Christmas songs or the covers they are known to do. However, I think they sound better than ever. They are all in sync and everybody shines on this album. It's actually a lot memorable than their first original one. There's good lyrics, there's maturity, there's a good vibe. They really sound confident. The album is very consistent, very cohesive, very pop and trendy, but has that Pentatonix flair. Of course, they are an a cappella group, but there's some production behind it. I've always got that feeling that behind it all, there's always some production here and there, and they all say that it's all a cappella, but you know, sometimes I could actually tell that was some production going on behind. But on this album I really think that they really use their voices for the songs, which I really like that. I just don't agree with some of the autotune, especially on Scott's voice, but other than that, I really think that this album sounds real. So in my opinion, this is their best project overall. I really want them to drop all the Christmas stuff because it's getting tired at this point, and I want them to stick to original music. I know there's business going around, there's contracts, there's sales, all of that gets in between. February is the month of the bands because this next one is about Death by Rock and Roll from Pretty Reckless, which they are one of my favorite bands of all time. And this actually may be their most depressed album ever because the themes are about depression, they are about life and death, legacy, feminism, and also a lot of self-reflection. So this was inspired by the unfortunate death of Kato Kandwala, which there was their longtime friend and producer. Also the death of Chris Cornell from Soundgarden. So Taylor was actually in a lot of pain. She was going through severe depression. She almost took her life, but she didn't want to be a part of the Club 27. So all those feelings inspired her to write this album. So a lot of the songs mention death and the Club 27. I think it's one of their best albums because the previous one was very boring, was very forgettable, but I was very impressed with this one. The style is very classic rock and roll, like they always do, and also has a lot of country influences and a lot of blues as well, and some witchy influences too on some of the tracks. I mean, one of the tracks is called Broomsticks. It's very short, but it's very Halloween style, and the next one is Witch's Burn, which is very haunting, very dark, very Halloween too, which I really like. I'm really admired by Taylor. She has grown so much. She's so much more mature in terms of her sound, her aesthetic, her voice, her lyrics. I mean, this new aesthetic, it's excellent. I really love the vibe of this album, the album cover, the single covers, the music videos, it all works so well for them. This album also feels very rebellious because Taylor is also for the first time singing about social injustice in tracks like So It Went. Still doesn't top Light Me Up, which is their first album, but it's getting close. All of the albums that I listen to are not as great, and this next one is very disappointing. I'm talking about Sia's new album / soundtrack called Music, which is inspired and from her new controversial movie Music, and the themes are about relationships, music, togetherness, world issues, mental health. However, this is her weakest project yet. It's boring, it's repetitive, she repeats the same lyric over and over again. It's the same old, it's uninspiring, it's filled with rejects. Courage to Change is actually a Pink song. Saved My Life is actually a Dua Lipa reject. Oblivion is actually a song from Lamberith originally. Also, this is very confusing because this album is actually a soundtrack to her movie, but the majority of the tracks doesn't appear in the movie. Yes, I saw the movie, I have some opinions about it, but this video is not about that movie, it's about this album. Whatever. I really got confused because the songs from the movie are different from the songs of this album. Only like 3 of them are from the movie. I think that Sia needs to drop Hollywood. She needs to leave LA and restart her career and, you know, go back to her old style and her old albums way before Chandelier. People doesn't know that she had a huge career back in Australia. She actually released some interesting projects like We Are Born, Some People Have Problems. I think that fame really got in her head and, you know, she's fucked up. She's fucked up. So the the next album that I will be talking about is ChungHa's Querencia. I did a reaction of her music video Bicycle. I will leave it here for you to check it out. And the themes, once again, it's about love, confidence, freedom, strength. So the title is very weird, and I have an explanation that was explained by herself. Querencia is actually a place from which one's strength is drawn, where one feels at home, the place where you are your most authentic self. It's about what makes me myself. It could be time, an object, space, or a particular emotion that's shapeless. In 2020, working on this album itself gave me the strength to move forward and gave me a sense of stability. She's very confident about herself. This album is very diverse. It has a lot of genres. She even sings in Spanish in one of the songs, The Mente, and she also sings in English in Dream of You or other songs from the album. The thing is, it's too long. It's 21 songs and it's filled with too much interludes. I know that the intros, outros and interludes, they separate the album because it's actually separated by 4 parts. These sides are actually meant to show all of the aspects of ChungHa's personality. It becomes too long at some point and she could have separated this in 4 mini albums. She also wrote some of the tracks like Bicycle, the main single right now, and Bil Harang. Sorry, my cat was actually trying to get in my room. Say hi, Sushi. Hi. Like I was saying, she also wrote the song Bil Harang, which is dedicated to her fans, and actually has in the title the dates of her debut with her former group IOI and the date of her solo debut. A lot of good songs. It's a fun album to listen to. So the last album that I'll be talking about today is Madison Beer's Life Support. I actually heard about her some years ago, but I never understood the hype. I never got really into her. I thought she was just a simple pop artist. I never knew that she has so much in-depth in her songs. But I actually was surprised when I heard Selfish, one of the singles from this album. It really is an emotional ballad inspired by her toxic relationship and also inspired by her father. The chorus, when you think about it, it really... it's tough. It gets personal. So the themes are really about mental health, toxic relationships, daddy issues, sadness, personal issues as well. It's been a long time coming because this album was delayed various times. She took so many years to release her debut album, but it's finally here and it's presented in a way that she really wants it to be presented. She has a lot of influences like Ariana Grande, Melanie Martinez, Lana Del Rey, Tame Impala, 21 Pilots and Billie Eilish. It's a very cinematic experience. It's very haunting. The production has tiny little details that you have to hear it, and when you notice them you get impressed by them. She was actually diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, which gave her the inspiration to write these really honest lyrics about her depression and sadness. Like, you can really tell that there were some people that really fucked up her life and she was very hurt by that. And the title, it's actually about, like, she was so messed up by these people, especially her ex, that she felt like she needed life support. Madison Beer actually proved to us that she's not only just a pretty girl like people like to say, because, you know, like, she's seen as an Instagram girl. And this album really contradicts that idea that she can be all of those stuff. She can be a little bit girly, a little bit more preoccupied with her beauty and her image, but she also is a human being with real feelings and real things that she goes through. The themes are about love, and sex, like the previous version of the album. So I will talk about each song and how I feel about them. We're Good actually sounds like a reject of her first album, and I didn't like it. If It Ain't Me is the only good track here. I mean, like, not the only good track, but the only track that I listen to a lot of times. I think it should have been included on the main album, and I think it deserves to be a single rather than We're Good. The next track is That Kind of Woman. It's a good track, I don't come back to it that much, and it's also one that really fits in the future nostalgia aesthetic, and Not My Problem, it's very cringe. Just delete it. Delete. Don't mention it, Dua. No. In conclusion, this version was just to boost sales because, you know, it's filled with collaborations that she did in the past year, in only for new songs, and none of them are that very good, so next. And once again, the themes are about love and sex. It's also very underwhelming, much like the Moonlight edition. I actually think that Positions didn't really need a deluxe edition. I like Positions album, and I think that it should exist on its own. I don't think it needed all these bonus tracks attached to it. The songs are really short as fuck. There's no need to, like, they are about 2 minutes and that's it. Like, why? For what? They all sound kinda alike, they are all very forgettable, same kind of lyrics, same sound, same concept. I just want Ariana to rest and take her time with her next era, and, you know, she could have easily just released a new music video for POV and call it a day, you know? Because I don't think this album needs more promotion than that. Still, I liked Worst Behavior and Test Drive. This was the first episode of this new segment. There's a lot of things that I'm planning, so just stick around, subscribe, put a thumbs up on this video, comment your opinion. That's it for this video, and I'll see you next time.